Are you craving the adventure that an RV could provide you, but you're just not quite sure which one to get? Well, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Restless Nomads, the ultimate RV show for modern-day rubber tramps and weekend warriors alike. Whether you're chasing sunsets full-time, savoring seasonal escapes, or just hitting the road for a quick weekend getaway, this is your go-to show for tips, tricks, and tales from the road. Join us as we dive into everything RV, choosing the right rig, surviving life on wheels, and navigating the highs and lows of life on the move. From towables to motorhomes, budget hacks to campsite secrets, we've got you covered. So buckle up, nomads, and let's hit the road to adventure, 1 mile at a time. Welcome to the Restless Nomads radio show / podcast. My name is Mike Wood, and I'm going to talk a little bit about different types of RVs, pros and cons, and pricing. So there are two main categories of RVs before we break this down. There are motorized RVs and there are non-motorized or towable RVs, and each have their distinct pros and cons. So if you're brand new to RVing, you probably have never heard the different categories of motorized RVs. They are Class A, Class B, and Class C. Now, a Class A is like a big bus, similar to a tour bus. Most of the time, these are pretty luxurious, they're pretty spacious, and they're pretty nice for full-time RVers, but they're a little bit more expensive. Now, believe it or not, camper vans or Class B RVs offer great ease of driving, and they're great for solo travelers that don't need a lot of space, but that's a con. They are very, very tight. You pay for that ease of driving and ease of parking with less living space. And these are the highest cost per square foot RVs that you can buy. Examples of these would be the Road Trek vans and the Sprinter vans. Oftentimes they're built on a Ford Transit chassis or a Dodge ProMaster chassis, as well as some Mercedes chassis. Now, the sweet spot in between there for motorized RVs is the Class C. And it's kind of got more of a bus feel than a Class B camper van, but more of a regular vehicle feel than a big old bus Class A RV. They've got a little bit smaller living areas compared to Class A's, but they sure are a lot easier to drive. Now, the second main category for RVs is the towable RV. And these include travel trailers and fifth wheels, and also things like toy haulers. Now, a travel trailer is the bumper pull, hook it up to the hitch, and you're on your way. They come in everything from something that you can pick up the tongue and move it around your yard, like less than 8 feet long, and really all that's in there is a bed, all the way up to a 36-foot bumper pull trailer, which is not easy to tow. Now, these are also probably the most affordable as far as hard-sided towable RVs go. I have a 2004 Fleetwood Prowler. Fleetwood's no longer in business, and they made a travel trailer back then called the Prowler. Now, its empty weight is over 7,000 pounds. Modern travel trailers are a lot lighter than that and can be pulled with much less of a vehicle. Then you get up into the fifth wheels, and most of these things are akin to the Class A motorized counterparts. Very spacious, oftentimes pretty luxurious, but the problem is that it requires a very large tow vehicle like a full-size truck, an F-350 or a Dodge 3500 to tow it, and not easy to tow. Also, there's toy haulers, and these are great for folks that are wanting to take out the four-wheelers and the dune buggies and all that for the weekend. In fact, that's kind of a cult crowd. If you're into hauling your toys, this might be the solution that you're looking for. Another thing that a lot of people like are pop-up campers and truck campers. Now, truck campers kind of have that similar aspect of a Class B motorized camper van. It slides into the bed of your truck. You drive it around like you're driving your truck. You don't have to take wide turns or anything like that. You just have to keep in mind that you're now about 6 feet taller. So you don't want to go under any low clearance areas like a drive-through. The pop-up campers, you can get those in a variety of options. They have pop-up truck campers, and that cuts down on the weight so that you can tow them with half-ton, or not tow them, but carry them with half-ton trucks. There's also pop-up tent campers that you tow behind you, and that can be a great option for weekend warriors. Some people kind of feel like, well, why would I tow a big tent behind me and make my trip harder to drive when I'm towing this thing instead of just packing a tent and throwing it on the ground? And I can kind of see the point. So there are different types of lifestyles that may impact your decision on which RV to buy. Are you planning on going full time? And if so, are you going to live in one place for a long time, or are you going to be constantly on the move? So if you're going to live in one place for a long time, you probably want some space. You need some comfort. You need some durability out of an RV. So you'd probably want to stick with something like a larger motorhome or a fifth wheel. Now, if you're planning on moving every single day, a Class B camper van might be the ticket, because that's a lot easier to drive and a lot less headache to drive through those larger cities. Then there are kind of the in-betweeners, the seasonal RVers. They spend 1 to 3 months in one place, and these people often like travel trailers or even fifth wheels or some motorhomes as well. If you drive it long enough, you'll gain confidence. Examples of these folks are like the work campers, the campground hosts that when you check into a campground, they come around and collect your fee. They're the ones cleaning the bathroom, and they're going to stay in that campground generally for the whole season, so 3 to 5 months. And then you have, I think, the highest population of folks. They're weekend warriors. And those are the folks that get off work on Friday afternoon. They hitch up the RV or they jump in the motorhome and they head to the campground, and they're there until Sunday, and then they're on their way home and they pack it all up and put it away and start work again on Monday. These guys, I think a pop-up camper or a camper van, small travel trailers are perfect for them. Now, it also depends on how many people you have coming with you and how big those folks are. Are you taking 2 kids along? You may want a bunkhouse. If it's just you and your wife and you're retired, then a bunkhouse is kind of a waste of space. So some things to think about. Let's talk about the advantages of both towable and motorized RVs. One of the hugest advantage to a towable RV is when you get where you're going, you can unhitch and then use your truck to go around and see the sights. And generally, as far as the RV goes, they're way more affordable up front, and you can, oftentimes the maintenance is simpler because you don't have a motor to maintain in the RV. Now, you still have a truck to maintain, and you still have to have a truck. And a new truck, or even a used truck, is pretty expensive. So 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Now, a motorized RV is great for long road trips. One of the huge advantages of that is that if you're driving down the interstate and someone needs to use the bathroom, you don't even have to pull over, unless, of course, it's the driver. Now, your wife or a child can walk back to the bathroom and they can use it. That makes it super convenient. And I don't know, there's something to be said for being able to crawl up into the driver's seat and take off at a moment's notice. There's some added security in that. Usually motorized RVs are more expensive just because they have an engine. So let's talk about the cost of RVs. Generally, motorized RVs have a wide range, anywhere from $60,000 for a brand new one, and that's bottom end, all the way up to over $600,000, like a Marathon Coach. On the used side, depending on what year you get, you can find a 1978 Winnebago Brave for $1,000, but it'll have mildew siding and the interior will be all torn up. So for an average motorized RV that's 10 to 12 years old, you're looking at $30,000. But they have specialty models that can sell for a lot more than that, and obviously the newer it is, the more you'll pay. Towable RVs, brand spanking new, typically start out at about $15,000 for the economy models, but they can run up to $150,000 as you get into the luxury models. These towable RVs, especially bumper pull trailers or travel trailers, there is a lot of them on the market. So sometimes you can pick up a relatively new, maybe 10 years old, travel trailer for about $5,000. I think our Prowler, which at the time we bought it in the COVID bang, and it was about $12,000. And at that time, it was about 15 years old. Now, that was at the worst time that you could buy an RV. Now, these also come in a variety of options, from economy, budget options, all the way up to the super luxurious. So you'll have to kind of think about what you're wanting, what you need, and what you're able to pay for. So some of the advantages of buying used: obviously the lower cost right up front. And a lot of that depreciation has already happened. Just like cars, these things are not appreciable assets. They depreciate every single year. They're not an investment, other than you're going to have a great time and have a lot of adventures and fun in them. Now, another advantage is that you get a used RV after what's called the shakedown period. When they come out of the manufacturer, there's always these little nitnoid things that are going to go wrong. Now, trust me, nitnoid things are going to go wrong anyway, but it's even more pronounced for a brand spanking new RV. These used ones, though, you got to be very careful. In fact, there are people with a job of inspecting used RVs prior to purchase. It's a pre-purchase inspection, and you can pay someone $600 to $1,000 to look it over and make sure that everything's good. The biggest nemesis for used RVs is water damage. Things like worn tires and stuff like that, that's all fixable. Now, I will say this about tires. You could look at the tires on any RV, and you'll oftentimes still see the little nipples, and you'll think, wow, this is a brand new tire. Now, I speak from experience. I did this. Turns out, tires have a shelf life. The rubber only lasts so long, and after about 7 years, no matter if you've driven it or not, they need to be replaced because of that aging rubber. So, always check the dates on the tires to determine whether or not you're going to have to shell out $1,000 to $2,000 to replace the tires. So, like I said, you can avoid the lemons by getting an inspection. If you are really wanting to get into the RV lifestyle, I would just recommend watching a bunch of YouTube videos and learning all that you can on how to inspect it yourself, and that's going to help you in the long run anyway. We'll get to that. So one of the problems with new RVs, you might buy a new RV with the expectation that it has a warranty, so you don't have to worry about anything. That's not so. Even if you have a warranty, so does everyone else. And these guys in the shops are completely backlogged. So you will be going through the shakedown period, things will be going wrong, and you're going to have to get it in the shop. Now, if you're a full-time RVer going over the road, that can be a real challenge because you don't have time to wait around. That's your house. So think about that. That's often wait times of a couple months. And also some shoddy warranties out there. Many warranties only cover minimal items, or they have a big out-of-pocket expense. So do your research and your due diligence before you sign up for anything with a warranty. One thing I want to mention about used RVs is there was a period of time during COVID when everybody and their brother wanted an RV. This caused the manufacturers to crank them out of the factories at lightning speed with little regard for quality assurance. This rapid production during the pandemic led to lower quality and higher defect rates on pretty much all RVs produced between 2020 and 2022. So if you're going to avoid 2 years of manufacturing, 2 model years, avoid 2020 and 2022. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. These really high-end luxury RVs or purpose-built RVs like four-wheel drive, that kind of thing, they pride themselves on quality and craftsmanship, and they're probably going to stand behind their name, and you know that those were quality inspected. Normal run-of-the-mill manufacturers, no good. Avoid those years. So, an interesting thing about finding the perfect RV, if this is going to be your first RV, you're likely not going to find the perfect RV. Experience shows most seasoned RVers that they didn't really find the perfect RV until about RV number 3. So some of it is just kind of experience and living with it for a while to determine the things that you like, to determine the things that you don't like, and then to make the adjustments and finally get that perfect one on the third time. So the third time's a charm, right? Well, let me tell you about my experience and Angie's experience too, my wife. So we bought a Class A motorhome. It was a Winnebago Adventurer, model year 1997. And at the time, we had an apartment and everything, but we took that thing up to Blue River. It was only about a 55-mile trip. And it was so difficult to drive, nothing like a car, it scared the bejeebers out of me. I actually hit a bridge with a tire and popped a tire on the way up, and I was just too nervous to pull it over. I heard a big bang. I didn't know what it was, and we kept going. So 55 miles up the road, got to the campground, struggled to back it up. You know, first-timers, no backup camera back then either. But I got it parked, and I said, man, this thing ain't going nowhere. So we ended up leaving that apartment. We left that RV in that spot, and we started living in it, which was a great experience. Don't get me wrong. We had a blast full-time RVing in this park. And then we would occasionally, I fixed the tire, we would occasionally take it 2 or 3 miles down the road and go camp out in the woods. I would just white knuckle it into these campgrounds, and it was a lot of fun. But that thing was so difficult to drive that it took some of the fun out of it. And then the other problem that we ran into was whenever we did go down the road and we didn't have our car with us because we weren't towing it, which, by the way, is a whole other topic in itself. You can't tow every car, so we'll get to that in a later episode. But when we got to where we were going, we got parked, we got the awning out, we got everything set up, everything is pulled out of drawers and all that, and the last thing that we wanted to do was pack everything up because we forgot an onion or toilet paper or something like that. So it's important to remember that if you go to a destination, before you get set up, do all your sightseeing that you're going to do that you need a vehicle for prior to setting up camp. That's kind of like these Jeeps or these vehicles with the tents on the roof. I don't really understand the concept there. I get that you want to have something quick and easy, but I saw so many campers that would pull into a campground and they would unfold that tent and set it all up and then quickly determine that they were going to roll down the road for whatever reason, maybe to a popular swimming hole, and they had to pack everything back up and fold the tent back up so they could drive down there. And then a lot of folks use these e-bikes or just regular bikes too, and I get that. That's a great idea. But just keep that in mind. You know, once you get everything set up, it sure is a pain in the butt to break everything down just to roll down the road to get yourself a can of corn. Now, our second RV, we ended up trading that in, and we got a travel trailer. And it was much easier to maneuver on the road. It felt much safer. Even though you had to make wide turns and you had to keep an eye on your mirrors and things like that, I had some experience towing a trailer, so it felt much more natural to me than the big, hard-sided, no pivot point bus. Now, we like everything about our travel trailer now, except for the fact that it has a corner bed, which means that one person has to be jammed up against the wall, and then the other person has sort of easy access out. When you have to go out to the bathroom in the middle of the night, that can be quite the dilemma, especially for the person that's jammed up against the wall, and the other person, your partner, is blocking your access, so they have to wake up and get out of bed so that you can get to the bathroom. That's one thing to consider. A walk-around bed is a huge lifesaver and a huge luxury for a couple that's going to be sleeping in that bed. If you want some convenience and a little bit of luxury and just a better life, get a walk-around bed so you don't have to crawl over your partner or wake them up when you got to pee in the morning. So, hopefully I shed some light on maybe what kind of RV you should try to get for your first time. And I encourage you to get one. It's not going to be perfect. Like I said, it takes 1 or 2 to get it right. Maybe by RV number 3, you'll have the perfect one. Any RV you get, you're going to experience a great deal of adventure. I want to encourage you to learn as much about the systems as you can and watch as many YouTube videos, listen to podcasts on how to repair things yourself. And then also how to make modifications yourself, because you may want to upgrade some things. If you take that to a shop, they're going to charge you $200 an hour, and you're likely not going to get in right when you want to. So, necessity is the mother of invention and the mother of learning. I have quickly looked at the price of labor in RV shops, and they told me, well, we can't get you in for another month. And I said, never mind, I'll do it myself. And I've learned how to do a great deal. And the advantage to that is that if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're camping and something goes wrong, you have a good chance at being able to fix that on your own. And with time, you'll know what spare parts that you need because they commonly fail. So the better you know your RV, the better off you'll be. Just like a mechanic driving an old vehicle down the road, if they break down, they're going to be much better off than someone who knows nothing about cars. So to recap what we talked about today, the two main types of RVs are motorized and towable. Within the motorized group, there are Class A, Class B, and Class C. Class A being the bus style, Class B being like a camper van, and then a Class C, which is a mixture between the two. Those are the ones rolling down the road that have the bed over the cab. Also, there are towable RVs, travel trailers. Those are the bumper pull travel trailers. Fifth wheels. Those are the ones with a gooseneck looking thing that goes into the bed of the truck. And then also toy haulers with the big door on the back, and you can put quads and things like that in there. And then there are pop-up campers and truck campers. Now, different types of lifestyles for RVers. There's the RVer that lives full-time on the road or in a park, and they live 100% of the time in their RV, whether they move that often or not. Then there are seasonal RVers, like the folks that do a lot of work camping, but they don't necessarily live on the road. They have a home elsewhere, and they go spend 1 to 5 months in one location, or even just a seasonal road trip. I have a friend that takes a big, long trip every year around the United States and then comes home. Then you've got your weekend warriors. That's probably the most populated group. They get off work on Friday, head out to the campground, and then come back on Sunday and pack everything in and get ready for work on Monday morning. Also, your different costs for RVs, motorized being generally more expensive just because of the nature of an engine. Your towable RVs are often a little bit cheaper or significantly cheaper, but you have to buy a big truck, often to tow them. Modern RVs are almost always lighter than anything older because they are constantly perfecting the technology and making them lighter and lighter. Also, we talked about the advantages of buying new and the advantages of buying used, and also the disadvantages of each. We talked about warranties and cautioned you about the things that you need to be looking for when signing up for a warranty. And we talked about water damage, the nemesis of used RVs, as well as tire age and the importance of conducting an inspection, whether you hire that out or you learn how to do it yourself. We also talked about repair shop wait times and costs. Expect long delays, especially during the early spring and then also in the fall when everyone takes it in to get it winterized, and you can expect to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200 an hour for labor. If you learn how to do it yourself, you can do it on the spot and you don't have to pay that. We also talked about avoiding the COVID era models, so years 2020 through 2023. Good idea to avoid those because during COVID, RVing was one of the most popular things out there. Everyone wanted it, and the manufacturers were cranking them out like there was no tomorrow. And at that time, we weren't really sure if there was a tomorrow, and quality control suffered as a result. Generally, it takes 2 to 3 RVs before you find that perfect RV for you. Don't let that stop you, though. Go out and get one because you'll only learn what you like and what you don't like with experience in your brand new RV. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Restless Nomads. More to come, and look forward to seeing you next week. This is Mike Wood. Next time, my wife Angie will join me for the Restless Nomads Radio Show /podcast. Have a great week.